Come on, internet. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Chaos Club. Today, guys, I want you to know that our episode is sponsored by Podcorn. Man, I freaking love Podcorn. They make it easy to find great sponsors to work with, and no matter how big or small your podcast is, you always have creative control. Podcorn is a marketplace that matches podcasts with different sponsorship opportunities. You can control the advertising on your show. Podcorn's main mission is to give you transparency, creative freedom, and full control of how and when you monetize. Again, thank you to Podcorn for sponsoring tonight's episode. If you guys want to explore sponsorship opportunities and start monetizing your podcast, go to www.podcorn.com/podcasters. So, guys, today we have a very, very, very special guest. She is making her Mission Pro Wrestling debut in June, and I cannot wait. Her opponent for that night is top tier Jasmine Allure, who everybody knows. Everybody knows she was my first interview on the podcast, so she holds a special place in my heart. But I'm very, very excited to get to know my guest tonight. So everybody who's watching, you guys can see, obviously, who it is. But I want you guys to kind of get a little bit of background information. So she started training in 2019, trained by Gino Told You So at a school off the ropes in Albuquerque. She is a product born and raised of the land of enchantment, aka New Mexico. So she's been in the business a couple years now. About a year into her wrestling career, she suffered a freak accident, and suffered a major knee injury, tearing her meniscus and ACL. I'm not going to tell you, we're going to get to how that happened because I've watched a bunch of interviews and it's always amazing to me. But I will tell you guys right off the bat, it was not a wrestling injury, which makes it so much more epic and which makes my guest so much more relatable and personable. And then, if that wasn't enough, COVID hit and set her comeback even further. You can't go in and have knee surgery in the middle of a global pandemic. So I am super excited for my audience, for my people, my friends to get to know the one, the only product of New Mexico, Miss Gypsy Mac. Thank you for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you for having me. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I am like I said, I'm fantastic to get fantastically excited to get to know you and kind of hear your story. The biggest thing, I've watched a bunch of interviews. I always do when I have guests coming on. And you started looking in wrestling, looking for wrestling schools in New Mexico, where you're from, and were essentially told kick rocks because you're a girl.
Yeah, so that happened on a couple of occasions, which I think is really sad. Because I'm a female, they're like, "Oh no, like I heard it's not a woman's sport. I heard you're too fragile to do it." Just like all of this bullshit that they don't want to train a girl because they're scared is honestly what it is.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that that's just 2 years ago, and now in
Yeah.
2021, the biggest one of the biggest indie companies on in the country is an all women's promotion run by Thunder Rosa called Mission Pro. Everybody knows about it. Women, men, promoters, fans, everybody knows Mission Pro. 2 years ago, you couldn't get trained by some of these idiots because they were scared to train a girl.
Yeah,
How does that feel as a female performer?
it feels awesome to know that these guys get to look at me going to Mission, going to these bigger promotions that I'm working. And I haven't been wrestling for that long. I'm only 2 years in. And like you said, I got a knee injury. So that cut technically a year out of my career. And now they get to see me succeed and do bigger things than they're ever going to do.
Yeah, I am so I'm a girl dad. I have
Oh,
a
yay.
I have a 6-year-old little girl who is obviously the light of my life.
Mhm.
I have 2 sons as well, but it's different. You know, before I had my daughter, I was like, "Oh, my son, my son, my son," and he's my pride and joy, and I love my kids equally. But there's something different about being a dad with a daughter. And what's dope nowadays, and I've said this to a couple of people, is the fact that with you, with Thunder Rosa, with Sweet Storm, there's a bunch of women that I can point my daughter at and say they did it their way. She told these men to kiss her fucking ass, and I'm gonna go get trained, and I'm gonna come into this industry. If you want to do it, these are the examples. So that representation has got to be. It's got to put a lot of weight on your shoulders, but it's also got to feel insanely like comforting too.
Yeah, it definitely does, like you said, it is a lot of weight on my shoulders because I am a role model at the end of the day for a lot of these little girls that, they might grow up to be in my same situation. And it's nice to know that I'm doing everything I can to show them, like, you don't need anyone to help you. Like, as long as you have the heart and the drive to go and get what you want, you're gonna do it.
Absolutely. So before we get into like your actual wrestling and training and bringing up your training, you grew up in New Mexico. How big is your family and what is it like growing up in the Southwest?
So I grew up in a little tiny town in New Mexico called Vegas. And it's very small, so everyone knows everybody's business. My family is a family of 5, so it's my parents, and then I have 2 older brothers. And I'm the baby, so growing up, they were super into wrestling, and I would get picked on because I was the small one. So you could imagine that's what it was like growing up with 2 older brothers. So that was fun.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. I'm the
Yeah.
second to youngest in my family and full of all sisters. So it's the complete opposite, but you
Mhm.
kind of learn empathy at the end of the day. You're like, okay, this is what it's like to be a dude and grow up. But I see my sisters struggling because they don't have that same lane and same opportunity as I did.
Mhm.
So I understand the family dynamic a bunch. Um, the other thing that you have some influences that I didn't expect you to have in the business. So you named Undertaker, you named Jeff Hardy, you were naming Eddie Guerrero, which is my go-to guy. He's the greatest of all time, in my opinion. Um, and then on one interview, you were like, and then I saw Trish, and I figured you can be hot and still be a badass. So, what was it like, or what is it like now that you're actually in the business, and you look back and you're like, I wasn't a normal little girl. Like I wasn't that typical little girl. Um, how much did that influence the way you're developing Gypsy Mac as a character, and then how much did that influence you as a person?
So I always grew up hanging out around the boys. And that's what I was used to at home. Like all of my cousins that I were close to were guys. Like I used to play like motocross, I used to skateboard, I used to do all these things. So I thought it was normal. And not until maybe like middle school or high school that I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm kind of weird.
And how was that realization kind of molded you as an adult? Has it made you see things like shit isn't just black and white anymore? There's gray.
Mhm.
Or has it kind of put you in a lane where you're like, this is where I'm gonna go and this is the only way I'm gonna be?
So what's kind of crazy about me is I see both sides. So there is a lot of things in life that are, gray, and you have to kind of see the blur between the lines. But when it comes to like my career, I know what I want and I know what I have to do to go get it. So that's where I see black and white. So it just kind of depends on the situation. But, growing up with that dynamic that I had as a wrestler, I'm the only female at training. So what's nice about it is I was already used to playing around with the boys and grappling. I used to do bodies in middle school. Like me and the boys would go and grapple and punch each other for lunchtime. So now I'm just kind of used to it in the ring.
That's that's pretty goddamn awesome. It's so rare. Like when I grew up, so I'm a '90s kid, born in
Mhm.
'86, grew up in the '90s. The female wrestling when I was coming up wasn't really wrestling. It was, let's put women out in thongs and tiny little bikinis, and every woman's a sex symbol
Mhm.
until a Trish, a Lita, a Jazz, who is on her retirement tour, and man, she's one of my favorite female wrestlers ever because she would just beat the shit out of everybody.
She's so
Um,
aggressive.
I didn't meet her, but I saw her at the last Mission Pro show because
Mhm.
I'm a sponsor, and she's so small.
Yeah.
But the look she gave me was like, if you cross me, motherfucker, I will kill you. And it was the dopest shit ever because you just don't expect it from somebody who's like 5 foot.
Yeah.
She's so dope. Um, I'm rambling, but I guess the question in that is like, where do you see where we're at in women's wrestling right now? Um, do you see it continuing on this upward trend? And I guess with that, if you see it on this upward trend, or do you see it as something that is kind of a fad?
So what's interesting is I had this conversation with one of
You know what
my
I mean?
friends. Yeah, like I had a conversation with one of my friends the other day about it because, they're bringing back a certain women's wrestler to the WWE. And I don't want to say that she's a terrible wrestler, but she's not, a Becky. She's not a Thunder Rosa. She's not a Jazz. She doesn't have that aggression, that agility in the ring as some of these athletes do. And I'm scared that her being there is going to push women's wrestling back to where men are like, oh, they just have to be hot and be in their underwear and that's it. And it's like, no, we've been fighting for so long to get where we're at that I think what Thunder's doing, what these other women are doing around the country is going to push it up and push it forward. So that's my only thing is I'm kind of scared about that on the WWE, but I think she is hopefully not going to, do too many
Yeah.
lingerie matches.
Oh god. We won't call people out by names, but everybody who's watching the show knows who you're talking about. And look, we'll get into more of your training in a second, but right now, if you look at NXT, if you look at AEW, if you look at the indies, in my opinion, women's wrestling is better than men's wrestling, hands down. And it's so insane. 10, 12, 15 years ago, women couldn't get more than like 3 minutes on like a Raw or SmackDown. And
Mhm.
now the main event of WrestleMania was Bianca Belair versus Sasha for the women's title. That's insane
Huge.
progress. Yeah.
Yeah. And that
Um,
was like one of the best matches this year at WrestleMania. Like, honestly, I think that was my favorite match. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a female. I'm not just saying that because, I'm like, oh, women's wrestling. Like, no, as a wrestler, that was a fantastic match.
oh yeah, I mean those two. I've said it. So back in the back in the day, a couple years ago, Sam Roberts was on the NXT pre-show talking about, I don't know if Bianca Belair should be on the main card and this, that, and the third. And it's like, hold on. First off, you're dumb because have you not seen this woman in the ring? And now she is by far one of the biggest draws in the biggest wrestling company in the world.
Yeah.
It's insane that it's taken so much proving people wrong for women to be a main event, but it's dope as hell that we're actually at this point.
Yeah, like, you know, and they said it themselves. Like they're doing this to bring back Divas Wrestling. And Divas Wrestling is that 5 minute match. My top is going to pop off to get the crowd to get excited. And, you know, like that's cool and all, but we're fighting for what we have right now.
Yeah, that as a wrestling fan for like 30 years, when you talk about Divas Wrestling, I didn't like it in the 90s. I didn't like it in the 2000s. I don't like it now, especially being a girl dad. Like,
Yeah.
being a father to a little girl changes your whole mentality of how you see things. And now it's like, look, I don't judge anybody for whatever you want to do. You want to go on TV in your underwear and show your butt? Cool. That's your thing. But is that the example that I want my daughter to see? Or do I want to show her Gypsy Mac versus Jasmine Allure? These two are going to tear the house down, beat the shit out of each other, have a 5-star match that the fucking douchey trolls on the internet who give 5-star matches won't ever see, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would much rather take my daughter to an indie show and see you and Jasmine and Dulce Tormenta and Holly Dead and Genocide and Thunder Rosa, all these women who are kicking ass and taking names, rather than a certain all red everything who doesn't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch.
Yeah.
Like,
No, and like I said, I have no hate for whatever you want to do. Like I model on the side, you know, like but I can also kick someone's ass in the ring.
mm-hmm.
It's all about, you know, how you are in the ring, and that's what matters at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what you look like, and that's like one thing about wrestling. It's really built my confidence. You know, growing up as a tomboy, I'm not like, oh, I'm the pretty girl and I wear dresses and blah. Like, you know, that wasn't me. I was playing Magic the Gathering and playing football with people during lunch.
Hell
So
yeah.
now, now being in this industry, it's really built my confidence that I'm like, no, I am like, you know, beautiful, but I'm also a badass. And that's what I hope your daughter and all these other little girls see at these shows and in these different women in this company.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So, you were trained by Gino Told You So in his school.
Yes.
So the way I took it in off of one of your interviews is essentially you knew him before getting trained, and when you
Mhm.
told him that you were having these fucking knuckle draggers not want to train you because you were a girl, he essentially said, "Hold on," and then maybe I didn't get this, but had opened up the school and then essentially snatched you up and said, "Come train with me and get it done the right way."
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. I've known him for a few years now, and I knew him before I got into the business. We've just been friends. Like, I'm into wrestling, so knew him from that. And I had such a hard time trying to find anyone to train me. So I went to him and I was like, hey, I'm going to move. I was like, this is what I want to do. I'm just going to pack up and leave. Where should I move to? And he was like, no, you shouldn't have to move to train. He was like, other people have expressed interest too. I'm just going to make a school and show you and like show everyone up that, you know, you shouldn't kick someone to the curb for their gender, for whatever reason.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that's dope that he kind of realized, like, these guys are idiots and they're Neanderthals and they're ass backwards in their thinking, and said, look, instead of moving, because you talked about uh a Sin Bodhi school in Vegas that you were
Mm-hmm.
looking at, right?
Yeah.
Instead of moving all the way to Vegas from New Mexico, fuck it, train with me. Stay here. Don't uproot your life because these assholes want to be idiots. Stay with me and train. I think that's super dope.
Yeah, no, like honestly, he's the best. Like I couldn't thank him enough for doing that. And like he's the reason that I'm here today. If it wasn't for him, who knows, maybe I wouldn't even have moved. Maybe I would have just stayed working my daily retail job and just been retail girl, you know?
Yeah. Trust me, I understand that. Have you had a chance to meet Thunder Rosa yet?
So actually what's funny is my very, very first show I ever went to being in the business, I went with Gino to Cactus League Wrestling out in Arizona, and Thunder was there, and I was like, "Oh my god, who is this girl?" Like, she looks like a little badass, and she's, like, cool, and I love her little accent, she's so spicy.
She's a killer, man. Like professional MMA fighter. eh, Booker, owner, talent on her own territory that consistently is drawing a couple hundred people in the middle of a pandemic.
That's insane.
And on top of that, former NWA women's champion, former champion over in Japan. Like, I'm sure sooner rather than later, she's going to be the AEW women's champ. Like,
Yeah.
and what I think is really dope is the fact that she sees young talent like yourself, like Jasmine Allure, um, Sweet Storm, and brings you guys in and says, okay, here's my stuff, here's my fans, here's the Mission Pro fans. I'm gonna put you out there now. Get yourself over.
Mhm. No, that's,
So
like, awesome. And I was just gonna say it's, like, crazy for me because it's coming full circle that, I met her just being, like, a trainee. I was maybe, like, a month into training, and I got to meet her, and now I'm gonna be working on her show, so it's just insane.
so before you go to her show, are you gonna stop by the Dog Pound and do some training with Rodney Mack and Jazz and Thunder?
I want to. I'm gonna be in town for a couple of extra days. I was gonna be, hanging out, so I might as well just go train if I'm gonna be there.
Yeah. Um. So shout out to Ryan in the chat. He's Man, this guy is a Mission Pro guy. Like, he retweets everything. He's on every live stream. He's been on the one that I just did with Sweet Storm. He's on this one. So Ryan, shout out to you. Sheena Marie from my Twitch. Thank you for coming on and watching. You guys are fucking phenomenal. I love you for the support. But Brian Rosa is here.
Oh no.
Yes, sir. He says, "Hey guys, what's up,
Hello.
Brian? Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate the love." So let's get to talking about. We kind of teased it. I teased it in the intro. Your knee injury.
My knee injury.
So I know how it happened. Tell the world how it happened.
So, little Gypsy here is feisty and she likes to, go to concerts and get a mosh pit. So I was at a mosh pit and I was pushing someone and someone else pushed me the other way and my knee just kind of like popped and I couldn't really walk. Yeah. So I just went to like the back of the concert and still watched the show.
Jesus, you're tougher than most dudes I know.
Well, that's not even like that's just the first half of it. So I
Yeah.
went to like the doctor and they're like, "Oh, we think it's fine." And I was like, "You think it's fine?" They're like, "Yeah, just stay off of it for like a week." So I'm like, "Okay." 2 weeks go by. I'm at training. I'm really stubborn. Gino's like, "You sure you want to do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine. Let's go." So I went to go give one of the other guys an arm drag, and my knee just completely popped, and I couldn't walk at all.
Ooh.
So yeah, I tore my ACL and my meniscus, and I also tore this other ligament on the side of my knee that keeps it like from twisting.
Oh.
Yeah.
All of that from a mosh pit. Like, that's a shitty injury to have. I have a torn ACL and LCL in my left knee and a torn MCL and LCL in my right knee. Yeah,
Sir.
army bullshit. It's
Yeah.
But what's dope about the way that you got your injury is the fact that it's so fucking punk rock. Like, in a mosh pit, kicking ass, getting your ass kicked, There's probably people throwing bows. Like
Yeah.
that to me, not only are you somebody that I can root for in the ring, but that makes you, knowing that story makes you somebody where I'm like, oh, I could have a beer with this woman outside of just being a fan because you're cool as shit.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I like to think I'm cool too.
That you don't hear many female wrestlers, male wrestlers getting, you know, getting their knee fucked up in a mosh pit and then just walking to the back and then trying to train on that same jacked up knee. That's pretty goddamn metal, if I do say so myself.
It is, yeah. I mean, I can't really say that it's not metal because I don't really know anyone that has done that actually. Especially to get injured like at a mosh pit. I've gotten black eyes and like my nose busted, but something like this, that's insane.
Yeah, it's not your typical, you know, I've been in a mosh pit. I've had my lips split. I've had my nose busted open, like you said, black eyes, ribs all bruised up. But to do tear your meniscus, tear your ACL, and another ligament, whew,
Yeah,
that's
the doctor was like, "Ma'am, this is like a skiing injury."
yeah, yeah, that sounds about right.
Mhm.
So, how long? I mean, before the knee injury, how long were you training before you actually debuted in your first match?
So I had like my battle royal match, which was 7 months into training, but my first singles match was at 9 months, and then I tore my ACL and my meniscus a week later.
Wow.
Yeah.
One match in to your singles pro debut, and oh god.
Tragic.
So what inside you says, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna get the surgery. I'm gonna come back. What is there a piece of you? Is that being, you know, your brother's in the back of your head saying, "Hey, you cannot sit on your ass for this bullshit. You get your shit fixed and then you get back up." Or is it just the desire to say, you know, I need to prove everybody fucking wrong about me?
It's both. You know, I do it for my brothers. I do it for the little girl that's inside me because growing up, that's what we had. I'm not going to say that my childhood was like the best. Everyone has their issues, and wrestling was always something I could turn to no matter what was going on. And it's something me and my brothers always bonded over. So I do it for them. And my dad is a huge wrestling fan. If it wasn't for him, there would be no Gypsy Mac. And also, I like to prove people wrong. I used to be overweight in middle school and in high school. So, like, the little fat girl inside of me is still like, yo, you gotta prove everyone wrong because look at you now and you're doing this shit. And all the guys that didn't want to train me, look at me now. I'm still doing this shit and I'm gonna be doing it forever.
Hell yeah. And Brian in the chat said, been trying to book Gypsy for a while, waiting for her to recover. Now the time is here. I can tell you right now, as a fan of everything about Mission Pro Wrestling, when new women debut, like with Sweet Storm, I'd never seen her wrestle before. I'd watched a couple of her matches, and then I met her at Mission Pro, and then we did the interview after. When they bring new women in, it's super exciting because it's like, okay, I can't wait to see what you do with Jasmine,
Mhm.
but then I can't wait to see maybe you do Genocide or a Holly Dead or Maddie Rinkowski. Like there's so many mix and mash pieces with Mission Pro, and that's got to be super appealing to you, right?
It definitely is, especially, you know, I only train with men, like I said. So to be able to work at an all women's promotion, it's a completely different ball game. I'm like, oh, now I get to work with like my own kind and we get to tear the house down. And it's so many different women with different types of wrestling um like backgrounds, I guess. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like Genocide is such a big, strong girl. Like she is gonna yeet me. And Jasmine does a lot of lucha, so it's cool to be able to work with like the different types of wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, I want to let you guys know, you know, sleep is a huge important part of everybody's life, right? The pandemic has had a tremendous impact on sleep, insomnia, and anxiety. If you're suffering from sleep issues, like half the world is, my sponsor, Real Sleep, has developed the world's first personalized sleep solution, customized to you. Unlike prescription and over the counter sleep aids, their plant based formula works with your body to get you to sleep faster, help you sleep deeper, and cut down on disturbances. So, in the Army for 10 years, a couple of deployments, I have trouble sleeping all the time, especially after like a night where everything's exciting and your body's just your adrenaline spiking and spiking and spiking. This is where Real Sleep's going to come in and help you find that easy and restful sleep. Your sleep may be solitary, but you're not alone, and Real Sleep is here to help. That's why I'm teaming up with Real Sleep to give you 20% off your next purchase. Go to the link on my show notes, use the code POD to see why Real Sleep is the last sleep product you'll ever need. So now you're in this point in your career where you're getting a really big stage with Mission Pro. You're getting this opportunity um, to kind of showcase to a little bit bigger of an audience. Texas wrestling fans tend to be wild and crazy. Um, where do you see yourself at the end of the day, at the end of your career? What do you want people to remember most about Gypsy, the wrestler? And what do you want them to remember most about Gypsy, the person?
So Gypsy the wrestler, I want everyone to remember that I am the biggest bitch that they're ever going to see in the ring and that they're going to hate me because I'm going to do whatever it takes to win, to scratch anyone's eyes, pull their hair. They're going to remember that. But Gypsy as a person, I'm very driven. I'm going to do whatever it takes, to get there in my career, in my personal life, whatever I want. I see it, I want it. And that's what I
Yeah,
want everyone to take away because that it's true. That's how I live my life. And I feel like that's how other people should live their life. If they want to do something, they have to work towards it.
absolutely. So, if you had one woman, living, dead, in the business, retired, that you could have your dream WrestleMania main event match with, title, no title, who's that one woman?
Oh, that's so hard. But I'm going to have to say Trish because she's, the woman that gave me the confidence to be like, hey, you can be hot and kick ass. And I feel like, black hair versus blonde hair, like, it'd be fun.
Absolutely. Let's get into your character a little bit. Now, on the interviews that I've watched, you've said, let me see, I might have written something down. Essentially, you said you're a child of the dark side.
Yeah.
Fortune teller, witch, tarot cards. Look at the background.
My coffin.
Coffins in the background. Um, so how close to real life is Gypsy?
Pretty close. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm evil in real life. I don't talk to demons or anything, but I do believe in the more like spirituality side of things. I do project what I want in the universe, and that's why I know what's going to happen because I already told the universe it's going to happen. I do actually practice tarot too in real life.
Yeah, one of the things that I notice is that you're not very shy about, hey, this is me. Like it, don't like it, go fuck yourself. Like I'm just gonna be me. Um, and that has to be kind of you're at this place now as an adult where you can tell people to fuck off if they don't like you. That's kind of got to be, to the little girl that's inside, comforting and helpful. And because when you grow up insecure, like I did, like I'm sure you did, you don't have that ability to tell people to go fuck themselves. You have that, I'm a people pleaser, I want to make people happy. So now where you're at in this place, how comforting is that to your inner child?
It's great, being able to feel this way now as an adult. I still struggle with stuff, everyone does that
Mhm.
grew up that way, or even if you didn't grow up that way, you might have a reason to be insecure now that you're an adult. But every day I just remind myself, like, these people are out there paying to watch me. I'm in the ring. This is my stage. You're out there, I'm in here. And that's to even people, that grew up teasing me, grew up giving me shit. They get to see me now being like, oh shit, she's on TV, she's doing this and that, she's living her dream while I'm stuck here frying burgers at Burger King.
Yeah, especially growing up in a little tiny town. Like I had a buddy who was in the army who's from Alamogordo.
Oh,
Yeah. And
wow.
even he would tell me all the time, like, dude, it's everybody knows everybody. You can't escape it. You have to get out in order to escape that small town mentality.
Hmm.
So in wrestling, what are your goals? Are you looking to be multi-time women's champion? Are you looking to be the female Kenny Omega and just collect titles everywhere you go? Or are you looking to kind of have a great in-ring career and then eventually transition behind the scenes?
There's a lot I want to do. I set certain goals for myself. I set one for in 5 years, 10 years, so on and so forth. My goal in the next couple of years is I want to wrestle in every single state and start making my way out of the United States. I want to go to Japan. I want to go to Mexico, Europe, everywhere that has a wrestling promotion. I want to touch it. I want to be able to say I've wrestled around the world and not lie.
That would be that would be amazing. I think I'm getting into Japanese wrestling, that Joshi really strong style wrestling, as a fan now, and I honestly think the one problem that I have with modern wrestling is, as somebody who is, I'm not like a badass or a professional fighter or anything like that, but as somebody who's been in a hand to hand fight and who's been in combat, wrestling is supposed to make me think it's a fight.
Mhm.
You're supposed to suspend my disbelief. A lot of wrestling today, especially in the two mainstream companies, you'll see people, not just women, but men too, will go to throw a kick and they're 87 feet away from that person's face. And that person sells like, and I get you want to be safe, but come on,
Mhm.
man. Like, if I can tell as a fan, your boss or the guy sitting in the front row is going to be like, get the fuck out of here. So I think the fact that you have aspirations to go to Japan or Germany or Mexico, learning lucha or joshi, or like British catches can kind of style wrestling,
Yeah.
it would make you, just again from a fan's perspective, it would make you that much more like, oh, she's really a fucking badass. Like, she flew to Germany, she put the miles on her, on her body, she put the miles on her credit card, and she paid the price to get where she's at. um would you rather, with that, would you rather, and this is a really difficult question, but NXT sign you tomorrow, or, and you obviously you're going to train at the performance center, get all that knowledge and education, or have a chance to go work in Stardom in Japan in
Ooh.
their dojo for 5 years and learn how to incorporate other styles? Which is more appealing to Gypsy?
I would probably say stardom. My coach one thing I really appreciate about him is he teaches us different styles, and he does teach us Japanese. My one of my moves is I do palm strikes and I do a swinging back fist. That's Japanese style wrestling. I'm laying that shit in. It hurts bad. Like I've knocked one of my trainings partners unconscious from a back fist. So I would love to be able to go to Japan and learn all of that, especially for 5 years. Like that would be insane.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, some of the most successful people have been foreigners in Japan. AJ Styles, Finn Balor, the Bullet Club. But there's not a lot of female. I mean, obviously Thunder Rosa did it.
Mhm.
There's been some foreign females that'll go over and have success, but it would just be it would be a chance to hone your craft down even more until you get it to that really sharp point where you're like, "Yep, I'm the fucking best in the world."
Mhm.
So, are you watching mainstream wrestling as well as the indies, or is it kind of, oh, I'm in the business and I'm a little, sick of watching everything, or are you still a fan?
I'm definitely still a fan. I don't watch religiously. Like I don't watch every single SmackDown, Raw, NXT, AEW. Like I can't keep up with that. That is too much for me because I do it for a living.
Mhm.
But I still watch the big pay-per-views. I love NXT. I do like to watch Dark because they bring a lot of people from the indies. So it's nice to see who's out there and who's in the different territories.
Mhm.
And those are the people that you need to keep your eye on because those are the bigger names in the different territories.
Yeah, I think it's dope now. In the height of my fandom, it was WWF versus WCW, and then WCW went away,
Yeah.
and then TNA was this little kind of backyard guerrilla promotion that Jeff Jarrett and his dad started, and they had the X Division and Samoa Joe and Christopher Daniels, and they had women like Tracy Brooks and Gail Kim, and
Oh, Gil Kim.
yes, Gail Kim is one of my, oh my god, I'm such a mark for her.
So I love TNA. I grew up watching it. I watched it a little bit more than WWE because I was like, AJ Styles, who is that? So I started
mm,
watching it a little bit more. So I love TNA.
that's man. I try to get some of the people, like a lot of the guys that I know, including the guys on this podcast. Shout out to the Irish Whip podcast. I love you, crazy fuckers. Um, some of these guys really know about TNA, but I was an early TNA fan, like when they were doing Wednesday weekly pay-per-views.
Mhm.
Monty Brown and Amazing Red and Jerry Lynn and all that early stuff. And then you had TNA become kind of a victim of its own success, bringing Hogan and Bischoff
Mhm.
in and going to the four-sided ring. And so when you're out there and you're looking at different promotions that you want to go to, um, I know there's things where you look where you're like, okay, this is somewhere I want to put myself out to. Have you run into any promotions that have tried to book you where you're just like, I get a bad feeling about this promotion and I don't, or this booker or somebody, and I don't really want to deal with it? You don't have to say anybody's name, but
Just be all bam, 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 blast it.
yeah, fuck them.
um, unfortunately, as a female, some of these promoters are scumbags and disgusting, and they just want to book you because they think you're hot and they just want to try and sell tickets. So I've gotten it like a few times. I'm like, are you sure you even have a wrestling show? Like, I'm just gonna show up and it's just a ring and no
Yeah.
one else is there. Yeah. It's happened a few times. And any females, even males, anyone out there, like, do your research, contact other people in those territories, make sure you're safe. There's been a lot of horrible things that have happened to wrestlers and that it's all coming out now. So make sure you're safe. Sometimes, as shitty as it is, not everyone has good intentions. Not everyone wants to book you because they like your work.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good advice. You know, there was the Me Too movement and the Time's Up movement, and this kind of, culling of the perverts. Look, wrestling started as a carny kind of business, right? It was a bunch
Mhm.
of these weird people going to different towns and wrestling and da 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 da. There are some really dark sides to wrestling, and there's dark history in wrestling. But the great thing about being in 2021 and with Twitter and Facebook and all the other socials that we have is women like you have the opportunity to say, "Hey, look, fuckface, I'm not putting up with that shit." Like, And the second you come at me incorrectly, I'm gonna blast your ass all over social media so everybody knows that you're a scumbag. Joey Ryan's punk ass, Velveteen Dreams punk ass. Oh, I have no problems calling these bitches out. Fuck them. Because as a girl dad, fuck those guys.
I'm dead in my chair right now.
I have
Oh my
zero problems calling those fucking douchebags out.
I love it. I love it.
And anybody else who decides that they can treat men or women like they're sexual objects and they're, fuck that. If I hear about it, your ass is getting called out on my podcast. I don't have 10,000 listeners. I don't have a huge global reach, but fuck it. I'm not staying silent for you bitches and letting you stay in the business that I love. Fuck them.
No, I 100% agree. Like, that's why I said, protect yourself. Look into the companies that you're working, look into the people that you're working with. It is a shady business. It's an independent business.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are essentially independent contractors.
Yeah.
No benefits. If you get hurt, it's on your dime. Like, it's so crazy to me because, being in the army for 10 years, I lived a similar lifestyle, traveling around and going to different places and doing crazy shit. Um, how has that lifestyle affected you in your personal life? I mean, it's got to be tough to kind of maintain a level of sanity when you're on the road all the freaking time. So what do you do to kind of maintain you as a woman apart from Gypsy Mac, the character?
One of my big things is I do like to go to the gym a lot. It's not just for me. I say a lot.
I say fuck a lot.
It works. Going to the gym helps my mental health a lot. It's not just about how I look and how strong I am. When I'm there, I don't have to deal with anyone. I don't have to talk to anyone. I can clear my own head. I don't have to be reaching out to promoters and, oh, I have this booking, I have that booking, I have a photo shoot, I have a promo I have to shoot, blah, 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 blah. It's my time to myself.
Yeah, the gym, everybody claims to not be a body guy anymore or looking for that physique anymore. But let's be completely honest, right? It is still a aesthetic business.
Yeah.
You still have to keep yourself. I mean, aside from a certain number of people who are bigger but they're freak athletes in the ring, um, you can kind of get away with not being in the greatest shape. But for the most part, to make yourself stand out, you have to be in good shape. You have to have ring cardio, which is a whole different level of cardio, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Um, so that the gym, going with that, what do you listen to when you're in the gym? What gets you like, oh, like I'm just gonna bench press the shit out of everything?
So it depends. Um, so I listen to like Britney Spears, Ariana Grande, but then I'll be listening to like Whitechapel and August Burns Red like the next, and then it'll go to like Tupac.
I dig it. Very eclectic.
I have the most insane music taste of a person that I know. The only thing I don't listen to is country, except for Neon Moon. If you put on Neon Moon, I'm gonna sing and I'm gonna cry, and it's gonna be a good time.
Okay. You and I can definitely be friends because that's one of my favorite songs of all
Really?
time. Oh yeah. I used to when I was in Afghanistan and I would get super depressed and homesick and shit. I would just put on Neon Moon, go outside, smoke a cigarette, and be like, okay, cleared my head. I'm good. I can focus on everything.
Yeah, it's a great song.
That is not an answer that I saw coming, but I'm with it. I'm so with it. I
Everyone
was
freaks
expecting
out at
like
Ariana Grande.
look, I there's Miley Cyrus and Rebecca Black on my iPhone, so I can't judge anybody's music taste. Um,
True.
really, I was expecting like Candlebox and Slipknot and
Oh, I love
Mudvayne
Slipknot and
and
Mudvayne.
Stone Sour and
Oh,
early
Corey
Corn and
Taylor.
stuff like that.
I love all that. Like my music. So I grew up the baby. My oldest brother was born in the late 80s. So I got all of that great late like 80s, early 90s music, TV, movies, video games. I grew up as a 90s kid, but I'm a little bit younger, so I can relate to this younger generation, unfortunately, sometimes. But I love Slipknot. I love Korn. I've seen all those bands a million times, but I also grew up as a little like emo scene child, so I also loved like Of Mice and Men and Pierce the Veil and stuff like that.
Like what the hell is that name? My Chemical Romance.
Yes. I
Yeah,
grew up with
that
the swoopy hair, the yeah.
that's amazing. Fucking Black Parade is still one of my favorite songs ever. So
So
yeah,
overplayed.
hey, you know what? I listen to. If you look at my iPhone right now, there is Otis Redding, there is George Strait, there is Rebecca Black, there is um, Marilyn Manson. There's this group called Blood. It's an all female rock group, like hardcore screamo rock. Um,
Interesting.
but then there's old Jay-Z and Cameron and like 90s R&B like Avant and Boys to Men and Maxwell and the what we affectionately call as baby making music. There's all of that in my iPhone. Um, so it's dope to hear, because look, coming into this interview, I had this kind of preconceived notion that you were goth and you were, this hardcore, just straight arrow gothic, kick your ass, wearing those 18-inch high heel boots that come up to your knees kind of girl.
Yeah.
But it's so dope. This is the great thing about the medium that I chose to be in is you get to know people and you're like, well, fuck, I like the same shit. And we both like. That's what's so fucking cool is preconceived notions go out the window with this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're about at 53 minutes. Before we start wrapping everything up, we said you've got the Mission Pro coming up in June 12th. Keep them talking. If you guys don't know about Mission Pro, look, Title Match Network, you can find it. It's all over YouTube. Thunder Rosa, everybody in this promotion is unbelievable. I mean, the commentators are women, the ring announcers women, the DJs are women, all the talent are women, all the refs are women, the camera people are women. Like there are some men involved, Brian. There's other, excuse me, other men involved. But if you look at Mission Pro, it is a female-led company, female-owned, female-ran, and they're, in my opinion, one of the biggest independent companies in the country right now. So if you guys don't know about Mission Pro, Miss Gypsy Mac is making her Mission Pro debut June 12th versus Jasmine Allure. That match is going to be nuts.
We're gonna take the roof off.
Man, I unfortunately am not able to be there, but I will be watching. I know. New job. Can't afford to take time off.
It happens.
But I will be watching that night on Title Match Network. And I can tell you that card is stacked from top to bottom. It's a Mission Pro card. So aside from Mission Pro, what other bookings, what other stuff, where else can we see you at throughout, the United States?
So I just actually had my comeback match last weekend at IZW in Arizona. So if you guys want to catch that, it is on my YouTube channel. That's going to be my newest match. But I'm also working another promotion in San Antonio that weekend. I'm working out in Lubbock. I'm doing Colorado. I'm doing California. I'm trying to work my way out to Vegas for Versus Pro. Hopefully, I'll get over there. And Utah is up on the books too. Trying to hit states I haven't been before.
What other promotion are you working here in San Antonio?
It's called Atlas Wrestling Promotion. That's actually how I met Mel from
Okay.
Mission Pro. Yeah.
I have to look them up. I've been a mainstream wrestling fan my entire life, so I'm just getting into the indies.
Okay.
But there's another promotion here in San Antonio called River City Wrestling.
I don't
I
think
don't know the promoter. I don't know anything like that. I've seen a couple of shows that they've done on YouTube, and it's high quality wrestling. But you know, I have
if
no
you want to
connections
check
over there.
out I was gonna say if you want to check out some wrestling from Arizona, IZW is a great promotion. That's the one I just worked last weekend. I'll be working them again in August on the 28th.
Awesome. IZW in Arizona, Mission Pro here in Texas, right outside of San Antonio, between San Antonio and Austin, in a little tiny bitty town called Buda, Texas, where if it rains, you gonna feel it. Gypsy, thank you for coming on. Thank you for spending an hour out of your busy schedule with me. Do me a favor before I let you go. Plug everywhere that they can find you: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, merch, everything.
Everything. So, as far as merch goes, you can contact me on my Instagram, which is the.gypsy.mac, and it's MAC. Mac is how you spell my last name. Facebook is Gypsy Mac. Twitter is Gypsy Mac. I do have a prowrestlingtee.com, but I am going to get a new set of t-shirts printed. So stay tuned on my Instagram and my Twitter. I'll be dropping it on there.
So, this comment that I just put up is from a guy named JD Hoop. He does all of my designs for my t-shirts. He's a fucking graphic designing genius. If you need designs for new t-shirts, let me know. I will get you in contact with JD Hoop.
Yes.
Great prices, fantastic quality.
I already am gonna need that contact because I was talking to my coach today and I was like, I am not creative. I was like, I need someone to like that can just pick my brain and come up with something.
JD Hoop is insane. When we get off of here, I'll share my screen and I'll show you some of the designs he's done for me.
Okay, sounds good.
It's amazing. Guys, thank you for streaming with us. Ryan, Sheena, JD Hoop, everybody else who's watching the stream, whether it be on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or Twitch. I love you all. You guys are fucking amazing. And I couldn't do what I do without you guys' support. So until next week, remember, chaos is life and life is chaos.